There's something special in the way that life deals with the ravages of entropy. So entropy is just the tendency for things to fall into chaos, disorder, and that's mostly because there are a lot more states in which things can exist that are not good for our survival, not right for our survival, than the number of states that are good for our survival. So naturally, things will move out of the forms or the states that are amenable to our survival, to our flourishing. Now, life is special in the way that it deals with this entropy because it takes energy, and on its way out, that flow of energy, on its way out, the body does amazing things with that energy to perform all sorts of things, to achieve all sorts of things. Kind of like you can have a stream of water and you siphon off little rivulets, little streams, and on its way downhill, you can power all sorts of different machines and do all sorts of cool things with the force of that downward trajectory of the water. In the same way, life takes in that energy from outside, and we build all our institutions, language, banks, governments, restaurants, whatever, right? All these things are actually, all these institutions are ways for humans to deal with entropy, to maintain homeostasis, okay? Homeostasis is actually a misnomer because there's nothing static about survival, about flourishing. With entropy, with things falling apart, falling into disorder, things moving out of the forms that sustain life, the only way to maintain homeostasis is to grow, is to constantly be acting, to be working, because the natural tendency of things is entropy. So that means all of life is contragrade to that natural flow. It requires work, it requires action. And if you look around, you look at what humans do, look at what living creatures do, it's a whole bunch of amazing actions that stave off entropy and allow them to survive and also propagate themselves. Life propagates itself into the future, and while doing that, it accomplishes all sorts of amazing things. So people think that the moral self and the physical self is coterminous, and that this same person is a moral self and a physical self, but that's not the way I look at it, because morally, all these influences, all these things that go into making who you are, they started aeons ago. There are multitudinous influences all going into making you act a certain way or another, whether it's people who are talking to you, the languages that have been set up, the culture that has been set up, with the genes that you're born with, all these different influences, and there's no way out of that. But what's special to me is your physical agency, your actions, because you can act in a way to create order that the universe never had before. It's as if the universe is blossoming through you. And so people disparage that we don't have free will, but I think free will was a concept that emerged out of theodicy, because religions had to justify why is there so much evil in this world and how can God exist? So they came up with this idea of free will, but it's actually a non-starter, that concept, because you cannot have a free will completely removed from all the influences just floating around in a vat or something, right? But what's amazing is your physical agency. And we use technology because technology is all the ways in which we leverage action, and it's amazing what we can do at scale, the impact we can have in the world. And so I see it as the universe blossoming through us, being able to achieve more now at greater scale, in more amazing, intricate ways, being more creative through us. And that I find that to be very special. So it's like the universe is blossoming. We are the universe blossoming. And actually our sense of beauty, just tying one last thing in here, our sense of beauty is probably to do with those things that resist entropy. So for example, if I have a table and it's lined up nice and perfectly aligned with everything around it, I find that beautiful, because that means, because there's some order I see there. It's not just a table turned off, disaligned with everything around it. So even our sense of beauty is tuned into ordered things that are kind of, we know are resisting entropy. They're not just chaotic and disordered. There's been some action that went into making it in harmony or whatever, yeah. So that's kind of, in, I guess, under 5 minutes, kind of like the basis for life and all that. And from here, I think you can build into proper conceptions of therapy, life's meaning, purpose, whatever, but that's a good foundation to build off of, I think.